What up, naughty steppers? It's Connor Whitmore here again with another review for you on the Nawtystep channel. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the new compilation from Interval Audio, Without God, Season 4. This is the latest collection of tracks from the fantastic up-and-coming label Interval Audio, who have been going since August 2016, showcasing some of the finest lesser-known talent in the bass music scene. Similar to other underground imprints like Audio, this is a predominantly dubstep label with the odd venture into other kinds of dark electronic music, using their 3 types of compilation to explore different musical avenues through their substantial roster of aspiring producers. You have the Elan Vital series, designed to push out weirder, more out-of-comfort-zone tracks. You have the Interim mini-series, which are small collections of dubstep bangers. And then the Without God series, the darkest of the lot and most dense track-wise, revealing a story through music and art over time, the 4th edition of which came out on Saturday. And since I became aware of their stuff earlier this year, I've been lured further into the Interval world with each release I've heard. Firstly with Interim Season 1, then the Havel EP, then Without God Season 3, and so on. All of which was more than enough to make me want to check out their entire discography as and when I can. Each collection taking you on its own journey, venturing beyond the norm to create an atmosphere and paint a picture. Music for contemplation and reflection in spite of its general heaviness. These aren't merely bangers but tracks that etch themselves into the fabric of your soul and camp there for a bit. And so, with those EPs and compilations having left quite a mark on me, I thought it was about time that I covered one of their releases in full. I've reviewed other Interval projects before on monthly roundups, but this felt like the right time to get some extensive thoughts out on their latest release. And it sucks to have to start with an obvious point, but this is another compilation where the variety is absolutely brilliant. An aspect of the compilation that creates a journey in and of itself, beyond any sense of peaks and troughs that it may offer mood-wise. That isn't to say that some styles aren't repeated, but there is definitely variation aplenty to keep you satisfied from track 1 to 16. For example, you have the RIDDIM approaches of Fate, Kilrina, Nasty Porks, and Akios, all of whom go about executing that style in completely different ways. Fate's Paralysis adopts a gritty, 8-bit kind of aesthetic, hollow and invasive with a compelling bounce to it. Love how it develops and the relentlessness really works here. In the Kilrina and Nasty Porks collab, it's more bewildering with those huge BROSTEP sounds atop that backdrop, some great sound positioning in this track, twisted and contorted in a pleasant way. And then in the Nasty Porks collaboration with Akios, the RIDDIM is more staggered and jabbing, energy is insane throughout, and again, it's very aware structurally going forward. Another thing that Nasty Pork seems to bring to the table in both tracks is these very animated, sprightly introductions, another thing shared elsewhere across the compilation. Notably in the second track from Clipper, spacey, playful, almost falling over itself, creating a nice distance between listener and music early doors. Referring back briefly to the staggered, jabbing delivery of Akios and Nasty Porks, this is also seen with Clipper and Site Zero. The latter's dubstep thudding along with this jagged, hard-hitting design, not stacked with flavour, but it's emphatic and evolves in the right ways over time. But aside from that, the compilation comes across as a free-for-all, with each producer digging for every bit of uniqueness they can find to make this thing as fresh and captivating as possible. You have the skittish, jumpy dubstep to start from Tom the Freak and Punishment, the to-the-point, gurgled, insistent sounds of Exile. That's one full-on lengthy demonic belch, I tell ya. The oozy, ambling, slightly broken dubstep from Mask, and the more contained stuff from Scum, vehicle engine dubstep displaying a brilliant assortment of sounds. You have the 2 cybersex features in Bloke Anthem and Fallout, which go down not too dissimilar paths in their unforgiving unforgiving and remorseless execution. The former, Bloke Anthem alongside Supercool, DeLion and Extant, possessing the album's funniest moments with the very meta, Aussie-inspired opening. All the sayings are downright hilarious, but which also has the most mind-blowing release on first encounter. It's properly brutal, yet not that difficult to get into. I find it extremely agreeable considering how heavy it is. A beautiful kind of chaos. And the latter, Fallout with Loser and Hella, is a little less accessible, searing into your brain and splitting it in two. Very, very savage and impossible to escape from. One other thought I had with this track was that it seems a lot more unconventional than others structurally, and I really wonder just how one goes about making a track like this, where the ideas come from, what part of the song they start with. So Loser, Hella, Cybersex, if you're watching, drop a comment down below on the production process with this number. I'd love to know. This thought is shared with the Havel track also, which, having had the full experience of his Dark Soul EP from earlier this year, is unsurprisingly the darkest of the lot here. Following a hazy, sepia-tinted kinda opening with this very haunting DEATHSTEP-like music, distant yet still racketing throughout your mind like a drill. The second drop here at 3 minutes 42 being potentially my favourite on the album, but again I found myself wondering more than anything just how one goes about making a track like this. So yeah, again, Havel, if you're watching, I'd love a little comment on how you created Isolation, what you started with, how the ideas formed, whatever. Returning to the notion of variety again here though, you've got Code Pandorum being as Code Pandorum could possibly be. The momentous going off to battle opening, the classic heavenly vocal notes, the staggered ravenous DEATHSTEP, it's CP to a T. Leading me to think once more that he is the best at that scattergun dubstep delivery. Others can do it, but it's certainly most effective through his execution. And with the final 3 tracks, which I have yet to discuss, we get some of the most conceptually interesting moments of the compilation to round it off. In track number 14, Zapphire's Residual, following a pretty fuzzy, intense first half, we have a garage breakbeat kind of build that actually just leads to the track's end and not a second drop. Something that really took me by surprise initially, but which I'm appreciating more with each listen now. Just a great touch to end on that crescendo. Following that, Oblique Strategies by Futurist presents us with some drum and bass, a very welcomed U-turn at this point in Season 4 as it draws to a close. Doesn't evolve too much and just cracks on, a real subtle force to it with those vibrating sounds underneath, eerie on top. Love the mood of this one, it just gets you. And then the culminating track Sand Eater from Redacted, which is just so well positioned in the compilation as a moment of reflection. The beginning here like waking from a dream or nightmare, similarly hazy to the Havel track before going on to sound a little like a funeral procession. The heaviest parts here being of clunky machinery in the distance, with these very insistent hardstyle-esque thuds operating amidst that. Suggestive of the repetition and monotony of everyday life, trying to mend something that's broken, dwindling hope in the face of oppression. It's a fitting end to the compilation, another roller coaster ride both emotionally and sonically from the Interval label. The hour and 5 minute runtime absolutely flies by. There are some other special moments littered throughout here that I'd love to mention before bringing this review to a close with some ending thoughts. I briefly touched on the skittish dubstep in the opener from Tom the Freak and Punishment. Generally, I really enjoy how all those sounds rebound off each other. Top notch. That Killrena and Nasty Porks intro, difficult not to adore it, so colourful and joyous, like something you'd hear from Chime, genuinely. Sticking with Nasty Porks, the vocal samples in his collaboration with Akios are very well cut, and the jumpy video game motif running through it, so infectious. I really like the lighter elements in the Mask and Scum tracks, albeit in completely different ways. The surreal, circus-like opening section in Poison from Mask, and the way the sparkly midsection adheres to that theme is very well done. And in One More Time from Scum, the intro is like the promise of a new beginning. Nice how it ends this way too, with an everlasting feel of hope. The transitions in the Site Zero track I really enjoy, the calmer moments always having that impending sense of doom looming over. Again, it works really well. The way that the Sapphire track just takes its time at the beginning, great patience to it, almost like the calm after the storm. And then finally the introduction also to the Futurist song, even more tranquil than its predecessor, amazing stillness to it, like a softly whistling wind. And so, overall, you may have noticed that I've had hardly anything bad to say of Without God Season 4, and that's not without reason. There are undoubtedly points that are lacking, the odd drum selection, some dubstep sounds being too muffled and abrasive, some tracks here not offering quite enough ideas-wise, but really, they are few and far between, and honestly, I think you have to view compilations like these as wholes and not get too pernickety on a track-by-track basis. Fundamentally, it's about the feeling that the album gives you overall, and here we have a group of producers whose individuality comes across in every track, in some way or another, working towards the whole. There are parts of every song here that I really like. You almost always get a few dud tracks in a compilation that don't add anything at all, but that's not the case here. Lest we forget, there are 20 musicians represented here. You would expect a lot of it to sound similar, so to create that sense of journey through that individuality is honestly astounding. I couldn't name 2 tracks here that sound distinctively alike. Some adopt similar structures, of course, but what lays on top is completely different from track 1 to track 16. A lot of that sense of journey comes from the track listing too, many peaks and troughs here, rounding off with a sense of finality. It functions well as a body of work. Basically, I'm really feeling this thing. Their aim is to tell a story, and they definitely achieved that here, effortlessly so in my opinion. If you are even remotely interested in the darkest stuff that electronic music has to offer, I couldn't recommend checking out this compilation and interval generally enough. Beyond the music, moreover, the artwork again is absolutely insane from them. Like, that's one of the things that pulled me in the first place, so that can't go without a special mention. Just stunning imagery, and it gives us a glimpse once again into the worlds they are trying to create through their music. But yeah, taking all of that into account, as I said, if you are even remotely into dark electronic music, then I can't recommend checking out these guys enough. Season 4 is proof once again of just how much Interval have in their locker as a collective, and I'm very excited for them going forward. Now, in terms of my favourite from Season 4, it seems harsh to pick one considering the collective effort that it is, but if I had to choose one, it would be the super cool DeLion, Extant and Cybersex collab because of the wild and wacky collection of ideas that it is. And in terms of recommendations, if you enjoyed Season 4, then I would just check out everything from Interval, basically as much as you can. And so that is that for another review on the Nawtystep channel, this time of the new compilation from Interval Audio, Without God Season 4. Thank you very much, and as always, for tuning in. Be sure to leave a comment with your thoughts on Without God Season 4. What did you guys make of it? Do you have a favourite track from the 16? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, then be sure to give it a big old thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, hitting the notification bell along the way. For some other dubstep reviews on the channel, check out the link next to my head somewhere. Don't forget to like and follow Nawtystep across social media if you haven't already, all of which is linked, including the recommendations, in the description box down below. And lastly, if it's naughty, then you know guys, so be sure as always to keep it naughty and stay safe. And I shall see all of you legends in the next one. Peace out.